Hey, Cougar family. Welcome to Season 1 of the CougsFirst podcast, your one-stop business network, a podcast all about life, business, and the best college in the world, Washington State University. Join us each episode to hear stories from your favorite Cougs, interviewed by yours truly, Kelsey Knutson, class of 2012. We're so glad you're here, and we can't wait to dive into this week's conversation. So grab a cup of coffee, crack open that beer, or pour a glass of wine, and let's kick off another episode of the CougsFirst podcast. All right, audience. Today, I am joined by Glenn Osterhout, who I like to call Glenn O. He's a financial advisor with nearly 30 years experience in the industry, and of course, a fellow Coug, class of 82. But that's not why we're here today. No. Today, Glenn is going to take us through the past, present, and future of CougsFirst. He's been the chairman for the past 11 years and seen it through many different versions, watched the community grow, watched it evolve, watched it pivot during some tough times. And ultimately, I know we're both so excited that this community is here. And Glenn, I think it's time to kick this thing off. So could you start by telling the audience a little bit more about you and your career, and we'll expand from there.
Hello, everybody. Glenn Osterhout, Glenn O here. Great to connect you via podcast. I'm a financial advisor in Bellevue, Washington. Work with a company called Cascade Guided Wealth, and am one of the beneficiaries of CougsFirst. We have many Cougs that are clients in our business that have been referrals over the years, some of which have come from the business network itself. I've been in the business almost 30 years now, so it's been a long time, and been a very, very fruitful and successful endeavor. But I think the most important thing today is to really talk about the beginnings of CougsFirst, if you will, how it got started, yes, and how it's transformed and become a much more effective network over the course of the years. And talk about the future plans, which we're also very excited about, that we've just hired an executive director, which is going to take us to the next level.
Definitely. First, I know you don't like talking about yourself, but I do want to know, how did you decide to go to WSU?
Great question. And I think many of you, I'm sure, out there can relate to this. It was 1978. So WSU was not on the map, if you will, near as much in 1978 as it is now. It's pretty much standard now for a lot of young people in high school, junior high or high school, to go over to WSU and to visit and check out the campus. In our day, it was not as much of a emphasis for people when they were in high school. So with our group that I was in high school with, we literally were encouraged by a friend of mine's sister was at WSU, was an AOPI, and she said, "You guys have got to get over here. You've got to get over to Pullman, and you've got to check out WSU, because it is the greatest college experience in the world." So 6 of us hopped in a station wagon on a Friday afternoon, and we drove over to Pullman. And we stayed at the Theta Chi fraternity, and we went up to Bowler Gym. We had some pickup basketball games that we played in. We went to a few functions on Friday night. We spent all day Saturday and a good part of Sunday walking the campus. I don't think we got in the car once after we got to Pullman. We covered the entire campus. We spent time at the fraternity, talked to all the members that were there. We spent some time with my friend's sister and coveted the whole campus in the course of a weekend. We literally got in the car on Sunday, early afternoon, to drive home back to Seattle. And I said to everybody in the car, "Who's in?" Simultaneously, all 6 of us said, "This is where we're going to college."
I love that. That's I think we all had that aha moment. And if you're just someone who's been a fan but never attended, you still feel that. And I think it's important to remember that having today's conversation, because CougsFirst has that in mind. And I think it's important to remember why we do all of the stuff that we're doing with this community. So you graduate, and then what was next for you in your journey?
Well, I actually got a job, and this was when they had major companies coming to campus and interviewing. And so I was through the Career Center at WSU. I was interviewing with a lot of different companies, large companies for the most part, that would come in and spend 2 or 3 days interviewing students. And I had 4 or 5 pretty good job offers. And I accepted one with Carnation Company. And Carnation Company, a lot of people think about Carnation Company as the company that is just milk products, but it's a huge company, consumer products company. Interviewed with them and was offered a job in sales management training in San Francisco. And so that was my first job out of college. So I even owe started my career to WSU because I interviewed right on campus there, got the jobs through the Career Center, and I worked at Carnation, which eventually became Nestle, for about 10 years out of college in both San Francisco and LA. Finished up my last job there. I was in sales for 7 years, and then I was in marketing after that. And my last job there was as a director of marketing, which was a great experience for me. Just had a terrific experience at the company, learned a ton, lots of training, but I wanted to get back to the Pacific Northwest. My career path, had I stayed at Carnation, which became Nestle, would have been most likely Los Angeles, or they would have placed me international for a while, because Nestle was such a large international company. I just knew I didn't want to go that route. I wanted to move back to the Pacific Northwest. I'm in love with the place because I do a lot of outdoor activity, and also it was much closer to WSU for me. So I moved back here in 1992 and went to work on figuring out my next endeavor.
As you know, I'm a big fan of life pivots. So clearly, spoiler, we already know that the next pivot was probably financial advising, but could you just quickly bring up to speed how that happened, how you came to that career choice?
That's a great question. And this is something that I encourage a lot of people to do. If you're thinking about a pivot in your career, there's a book out there, and it's still out there, and it's very good. It's called What Color's Your Parachute? And I bought the book and I started the process of trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And it really helped me sit down and identify a career path that I wanted to follow. And it asks you a lot of different questions. Who are the types of people that you want to work with? What are the types of hours that you want to put in? How much flexibility do you want to have in your job? What's your financial expectation? All kinds of different questions. It even goes as far as asking you what to get your college transcripts and take a look at the classes that you excelled in, because obviously you have an aptitude for certain types of curriculum more than others. And so it helps you really drill down in terms of what you want to try and do. I put all that together, and it was pretty evident that I wanted to be in the financial services business, and a financial advisor was the perfect fit for me.
That's awesome. Okay, now to the fun and the stuff I know you want to talk about. How did CougsFirst first start? How did you get plugged in? What happened there?
It's a great question. There was literally 6 of us that went to lunch in Bellevue. And Jack Thompson and Rob Telbeck were 2 of those that are still involved to this day. Mm-hmm. And we sat down at a luncheon and we talked about, should WSU have a business network? And through the course of that lunch and the conversation that we had, we figured that absolutely we needed to have a business network because of the affinity that we all share with WSU. We also really talked about the fact that it probably wouldn't work at every university because they don't have the affinity that WSU alums have for their university at a lot of these other institutions. So we felt that if we did it, we would have a competitive advantage over the other schools in the Pac-12 and other schools around the country. because it is a real value add to have a business network in place so that these young kids, whether they're still in college or if they've graduated, they have access to mentors, they have access to businesses, they have access to coaches like yourself. They have access to a lot of different people that can help them throughout their career. And we knew that Cougars, if we started it, we knew that Cougs would embrace it because of the affinity that we have.
CougsFirst is your one-stop business network. Looking for a new bank or insurance? Think CougsFirst. Buying a new car? Think CougsFirst. Hiring a Coug? Think CougsFirst. Need a mentor? You guessed it. Think CougsFirst. What makes WSU great is Cougs supporting Cougs, and they are in every business. And we'll take your call. Google it at CougsFirst.org. And as always, go Cougs. Definitely. Are there, I don't know the answer to this question. Are there other universities who are doing something like this or no?
Well, what you've got is, for the most part, if you take a look around the country, the business networks that are in place are through the university itself.
Okay.
The university will have created a business network. And one of the things that we found was I think it's more difficult for a university to do it themselves than it is for a private sector group like CougsFirst. That's one of the beauties of CougsFirst, is that we are not a large bureaucratic state-run institution. There's just a lot of different things that happen when you're a state institution versus a private sector business. We can pivot, we can move, we can just be quicker to what the needs of the marketplace are, being a smaller business network. And that has really worked to our advantage. And right now, we continue to pivot and move and change with the marketplace. And that's probably one of the best features of CougsFirst.
Yes, I definitely agree. So those very early stages after that lunch, how'd you start? What was the first action steps your group took?
Well, we, in the interest of, moving quickly and being a private sector organization, the next thing we did was a dinner, and we had about 20 or 25 business owners that attended that dinner. We had a sponsor, and everybody obviously brought information on their company and their business cards and whatnot. And it was not only a networking dinner, but it was really also a chance for us to speak to a broader audience about the concept that we were talking about. And again, when we had those 20 or 25 people together, the response was the same. They were all for it. They thought it was a good idea, and they said that they would support it. So that really gave us another boost to our concept as we started to move forward.
And thinking back to those initial days, what do you think the biggest goal was for CougsFirst at that time?
Yeah, I think what happened was we had this group together, and we talked, and about different events and different ways to network and whatever it might be. And we gradually got larger. We went from 20 or 25 to maybe 40 or 50, and then we went to maybe 60 or 80. But what really changed the trajectory of CougsFirst was a good friend of ours who was involved with the organization as a volunteer, Debbie Nordstrom. She mentioned to us that she said, you guys really ought to consider a trade show. And for us, a light just went on, because we knew that nobody in the country was doing a trade show for their business network, and that nobody would end up doing anything like what we were about to embark on. So that really set us apart in terms of a substantial business network. And we held our first trade show in 2011 at the Hyatt Regency right here in Bellevue. We had 40 exhibitors, and we had about 350 people attend, which was really a very good turnout for a first-time event.
Wow. I didn't know that's when it started. I think my first one was 2012. So Wow, that's pretty amazing to think about. Time goes fast.
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, it's
Huh.
11 years have gone by quickly.
Yeah. So what was the initial structure like? I mean, you said you had a group of people who was working for the company. You were a chairman. What was everyone's role to play in all of this? And all of you have your other businesses you're already managing too.
Yeah, it was for the most part, it was all volunteer driven. It was
Wow.
we expanded the board. We started at just 5 or 6 of us. We expanded the board to 10 or 12. And CougsFirst was very much volunteer driven, at least for the first 5 or 6 years, for the most part. And then we hired a director of marketing. We obviously had somebody who oversaw the events. So we had in place then, we had a director of marketing, Lindsay Evans, who's still our director of marketing. And then we had Mary Jo Bradley, who would oversee the events. So those were the two paid positions that we had within the organization, which probably started, as I mentioned, 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah. And since then, we've all weathered a pandemic. And again, you mentioned trade show. That's what your bread and butter was. So could we talk through some of the pivots that CougsFirst has had to make over the years, but especially the last few?
Yeah, absolutely. We had to, unfortunately, when the pandemic came out, we were 5 days from when we were going to have our show. The reports and the numbers kept coming in, and it was pretty obvious that we just couldn't have it.
Yeah.
And at that time, if you remember, some people were really upset that we weren't going to have it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was pretty clear to us that from a safety standpoint, it wasn't going to work. So as an organization, what we had to do, like so many organizations, is we had to ramp up our marketing, and be a lot more aggressive about how we went about things on the marketing front, because we didn't know how long we would not be able to have the in-person events. So Lindsay Evans, much to her credit, she took the bull by the horns as our director of marketing. We really expanded our efforts on social media, our newsletter, and then just engaging people, over the phone, talking to our sponsors, talking to them about how to market, how to be more effective in our marketing efforts, because that's what we were tied to. And so, to her credit, she really expanded that, and we got a lot more aggressive. And so the last couple of years prior to the events we just had, a lot of our time and effort was spent around the marketing efforts and trying to get WSU alumni and friends to think CougsFirst for their products and services. I still think one of the keys that we have to have for the organization is we have to grow the number of people that think CougsFirst for their products and services. We know that there's a lot of people out there that want to do it. So what we're trying to do is make it easier for them. I should mention, we also expanded the Cougar Business Network, and that is on our website at CougsFirst.org. CougsFirst Business Directory. I'm sorry, that's what the name of it is. And
Yeah.
you can go to CougsFirst.org and then click on CougsFirst Business Directory. We call it the CBD. If you think about it, we ask people to Google, not Google, but Google it when they go to the website and to search for a Cougar-owned, managed, or affiliated business.
Just, I know because I'm on the website, I peruse it often, but for people who may not know, could you rattle off some just crazy random industries that are on there?
Oh boy. The CougsFirst Business Directory obviously has grown over time, and it grew a lot during the pandemic because that was the way, a way you could market yourself that didn't require an in-person event. But it's interesting. Cougars are in every business out there. There's not an industry that we're not tied to. Some you're probably familiar with. Beecher's Cheese is owned by a Cougar. But then you take a look, one of the largest consulting firms in Seattle, Slalom Consulting, is managed by WSU alum Brad Jackson. You've got people in healthcare. You've got people in retail. You've got people in home improvement. It's really a broad group of businesses that are on there. And it's probably about 350 businesses now. Yeah. Our goal is that CougsFirst business directory someday will have maybe 800 to 1,000 businesses, so that you've got the whole landscape out there covered, so that when you go to that site, you can find what you're looking for. But if you're searching the site and you don't find a business that you would like, our list of Cougar owned and managed businesses is obviously much larger than what's on the directory. You can email us at info@cougsfirst.org, and we will try and find a Cougar owned, managed, or affiliated business for you in that industry, because our newsletter and our database is much larger than what's on the directory itself.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I wish more people knew that, especially I'm going to nag on my generation. A lot of people my age don't know how awesome CougsFirst is. And even if you don't have a business, it's worth knowing about, because if you need a roof repaired, if you need some delicious wine to pair with your dinner, if you need transportation, odds are there's a business on CougsFirst that you can use. What makes WSU great? Cougs support Cougs, and they are in every business and want to give you a good deal. Looking for a new bank or insurance? Think CougsFirst. Selling your house? Think CougsFirst. Need to plan a party? Pick a venue or set your menu? Think CougsFirst. Did we make our point? Start to Google it at CougsFirst.org. And as always, go Cougs!
Absolutely. And the whole concept is, the reason we're so excited about it is we obviously want our fellow Cougs to succeed in whatever endeavor they're involved in. And so the concept is really simple. I like to use insurance as an example, because insurance applies to just about everybody out there. Even when you're just graduated from college, you're certainly probably going to have auto insurance. And then as time goes on, you're going to have a homeowner's, but then you might have insurance on your boat. And then you might have insurance for your business or whatever it might be. And the question I have for people is, well, would you rather have that premium that you're paying for your insurance go to a WSU alum, a fellow Coug, or would you have it go to somebody that, quite frankly, you probably don't even know very well? Mm-hmm. And so we want people to think CougsFirst, obviously, for their insurance, and then have that premium go to a fellow Coug. And then obviously auto purchases and RVs and having, home improvements, your accounting, your finance, your legal help. I mean, the list goes on. And the whole thought process behind it is the more successful Cougs are, the more successful WSU is going to be. We have specific testimonials of Cougs that have done very well by the business, and they now in turn are donating back to WSU. So there's a bigger picture in the circle of the whole process. With the more successful our Cougs are, the more successful WSU is going to be.
I think that's awesome, and kind of ties into my next question for you, which is, do you have a business who's been a part of CougsFirst that you've watched just have massive success from being a part of the community?
Oh, absolutely. I think I think the best example is Sixth Design, which is Lindsay Evans, our director of marketing. She started her business, gosh, it's got to be probably 8 years ago now, as a design type business. And then eventually became our director of marketing. Her entire business has been built on referrals from CougsFirst, and she now is turning away business. She's got too many people that want her services, and she's expanded and has a really, really good set of clients. But she's to a point now where she's gotten too much business from the organization. And I think the key, though, is that it doesn't happen overnight. You know that with the endeavor that you're in. But she stayed at it, and she continued to work her business plan. She continued to pivot. And she will continue to do that forever. She'll make tweaks to her business. But she's at a point now where she has too much business from the network.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to witness and a good reminder for people that in this situation, especially if you're a newer business joining the community, you get out of it what you put into it. And the more time you take building relationships and getting to know people, I think that's where the magic happens.
Absolutely. It's like anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes hard work. So I think what people need to be aware of is that you have a network out there that already has an affinity.
Mm.
So you start a little bit further in the process when you're out there trying to network and trying to do business. That's very helpful, but you still have to work at it. You
Mhm.
still have to do all the things that you're supposed to do in networking. Obviously, be prepared, have a list of questions, do your homework, bring materials with you that show how your business works and how it can be a benefit to people. Follow up with people after meeting with them, even if it's just thank you, nice to meet you, or if it's trying to pursue some business. You still have to do all the things that are necessary to be successful in a business. And if you're a sponsor, we provide a list to people of networking ideas and some of the best practices for networking as well. So there's some value add that comes along with being a sponsor. Is we try to teach and help people to network as well.
Definitely. What about recent grads? Do you know of any success stories of grads coming and getting jobs from the network?
Yeah, we obviously over the years have had quite a few students that were hired or recent grads that were hired by companies within the network. And it's a great question because one of the things that's going to happen in 2023 is that the CougsFirst show is going to include here in Seattle is going to include a job fair. We've met with Career Services at WSU. They've been interested in having a job fair in the spring over here for quite some time. And so now that we've got an executive director on board, we're going to team up with them. And next spring, it'll be in May, probably second or third week in May will be the timing. At the venue that we choose to host the facility, we're going to have a job fair probably somewhere in the range of noon to 2 o'clock. Then there'll be some seminars and some business type programs going on from 2 to 3. And then we'll go into Kirk Schultz speaking and then the show itself. So we're going to add a job fair component to it because in May, the students are all back home again. So we will be able to bring in the WSU students. We'll be able to bring in WSU recent grads. And it's open to everybody. We also want WSU alumni there. We want all those people that might be thinking about or looking for jobs or thinking about changes in their jobs. We want all of them to attend. Obviously, we want them to benefit from the educational seminars, and then they'll have a chance to walk the show itself.
That's great. Okay. Another question for you, Glenn. What is your favorite part of being a part of CougsFirst?
Well, it's really simple for me. And this is what energizes the board itself too, is what motivates all of us is to see Cougs succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And if CougsFirst can be a part of that, that is what we are doing this for. We are doing this so that we can see people of all ages, students, recent grads, and alumni of all ages being successful. When they get business from the network, that's what motivates us. There's obviously it's a not-for-profit entity. There's no profit angle. Anything that is made is reinvested into the organization. And it's really Cougs supporting Cougs. And when we see people succeed or have success because of the network, that's what does it for us.
That's great. And you kind of touched on it a little bit, but could we talk about this new hire, the executive director role, why you're excited about it, kind of what that means for CougsFirst too?
It's huge.
Yeah.
We've had a director of marketing and we've had obviously our event coordinator, and they've done a terrific job. And it's great to have them in place because it's easier for our executive director. But as you know, we hired Tony Poston about 3 months ago to be our executive director. Tony is a young, smart, aggressive, big thinker. And quite frankly, I'm not sure we could have done any better in hiring an executive director.
I'm going to second that and agree.
We've always felt that the perfect executive director for CougsFirst would be somebody who ran a small business. Because there's so many. That's what CougsFirst is. CougsFirst is a small business. And so all of the skills that he developed while he was the CEO of College Hill transfer directly over to CougsFirst. And some of the things that we've been working on so far are just second nature to Tony.
Yeah.
All of the finances for the organization. He's going to use the same software platforms. He's going to use the same systems, the same mechanisms, everything that he had in place at College Hill. So that can completely transfer over in a seamless manner, which allows us to spend more time out in the marketplace. So this is a huge step for us. It's been a long time coming. We were close to hiring an executive director before the pandemic, but as you well know, a lot of things went on hold when that hit. So we couldn't be more excited because now we can take this organization to the next level.
Definitely. And I just want to plug Tony too. Audience, if you're listening, we have a whole episode with him. And then on my podcast, When I Grow Up Pod, I also had the honor of having Tony on before all the CougsFirst stuff was official. So he didn't speak to that, but he's a fun entrepreneur. He's talented. And I'm just so excited for the direction this group is going. And I agree that he's the right person in the right seat for that.
Well, and I might add, one of the things about CougsFirst is, we're a very approachable group of people. We're Cougs. And if we have Cougar owned, managed, or affiliated businesses that are interested or have questions, I encourage people to reach out, introduce yourself. If you've got questions, I talk to Tony. He's an experienced business person, has run a successful business, and now he's embarking on CougsFirst. And our whole goal is success for WSU alumni and friends. So if you've got a question or you want to pick somebody's brain about something, maybe things that you're facing in your business or whatnot, reach out to us, because our whole goal is to help you become successful. And so don't be bashful about introducing yourself and asking questions.
Definitely. I totally agree. Okay, Glenn, couple more questions about you and your WSU journey. What was your most impactful memory from your time at WSU?
Well, I think, I was fortunate at WSU. I was very active socially with a lot of. Of
course you were.
Yeah, exactly. Surprise. But I was very active socially at WSU. And one of the things I told students when I was there, and what I tell them as a graduate is, at WSU, get involved. There are so many ways to get involved at WSU. You can get involved in the Greek system. You can get involved in student government. You can get involved in intramural sports. You can get involved with the homecoming committee, the marketing club, the economics club. I mean, the beauty of WSU is you can get involved in so many different things, and everything's walking distance. It's not difficult to be involved. If you've got a 6:00 meeting up at the Cub, well, you walk up there and you go to your meeting. There's no barriers to any of it. And I was fortunate enough to get involved in student government and was elected vice president of the student body. And that opened up a whole new world for me in terms of, learning how to network, learning how to work with the administration, with the president of the university, with the board of regents, with the student assembly, which is, our version of Congress at WSU. It opened up so many things to me, and I learned the learning curve was just straight up. That really helped me in terms of who I was, how I communicated with people, and how I connected. And quite frankly, then when it was time to look for a job, Obviously, that's a huge resume builder, but all the skills that I was able to develop in that job is what really helped me get a job out of college.
Perfect answer. Okay. And if you could give younger Glenn one piece of advice, what would it be?
And I really want to emphasize this.
Yeah.
And Kelsey, you and I talked about this, and I know this is what you do. I encourage people to ask questions. Don't be bashful. If you have a question, and we all have questions on our mind, whether it be our business, our career, what we're embarking on, don't be bashful about going up to people, introducing yourself, and asking questions and listening. You can never go wrong if you ask a whole bunch of questions and then you listen intently and even take notes if you have to remember all the things that you're talking about. But there's a tremendous amount of expertise, knowledge, critical thinking, mentorships out there in CougsFirst, and these people are willing to help you. And so it doesn't matter. There is no stupid question. If you've got questions or you're looking for information or things, don't be bashful about it. Go up and ask questions, and then make sure that you listen intently, because you've got literally tens of thousands of hours of experience in business out there, and you may as well tap into it. There's no sense in having to go through hard lessons time and time again when you've got a resource that you can access.
Definitely. Definitely. Okay. And then I have 3 rapid fire, just quick, fun questions for you, Glenn. Are you ready?
Got it. Yep.
Okay. If you could have a beer in Pullman anywhere right now, where would you go?
That's a great question. I'd go to the Coug.
Of course. Okay. Number 2, if you could see only one football game this season, which one would it be?
Wow. Probably Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then last one, if you had to describe your time at WSU in one word, what would it be?
Euphoria.
That's perfect.
I have more, right? I have more. But that would be the one word answer. Without a doubt, it was the best experience of my life. Made lifelong friends, and I'm still a Coug. It doesn't have to end when you graduate. Your affinity and your time and your work and everything you do, your social life, it can extend on forever. But yeah, it would be Euphoria.
Perfect. Okay. And where is the best place to send people if they want to find out more information about CougsFirst? Where should we direct people?
The best place to start, which is probably what a lot of people do with anything they're trying to learn about, is to go to the website and visit CougsFirst.org. We've got an About Us tab there. And then we've got a lot of other information, a lot of other things that we're doing. But go to the website, and then when you're on there, go to the CougsFirst Business Directory, the CBD, and take a look at all the different categories of businesses. We've got them broken down into probably 35, 40 categories. You can click on that category, and then you can drill down to the different businesses that are in there. And I think what's most important is that when you go there and you look, if you don't find the business that you're looking for, or the service that you're looking for, ping us at info@cougsfirst.org, and then we will try and help you. Even if there's some listed in the category that don't fit your need, ping us so that we can try and find somebody for you. But I think the other thing is the main message that I want to drive home here is that we want everybody to thank CougsFirst for their products and services. And we need for Cougar Nation to get in the habit of taking the intentional act of seeking out Cougar-owned, managed, and affiliated businesses. It's growing. There's no question about it. We're getting more and more traffic to the website, and we're getting more and more Cougs thinking CougsFirst for business and services. But we want to be the best business network in the entire country. And it's going to take all Cougs in order for us to do that. And just think of the amount of commerce that is conducted in a single day by WSU alumni and friends. I mean, it is a massive number. And we want more and more of that commerce to be going to fellow Cougs.
Definitely. Okay, I just have to say one more thing to keep this episode legally legit, which is a disclaimer of securities and advisory services offered through Cascade Guided Wealth Advisor Networks, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC, a broker-dealer and a registered investment advisor. Cascade Guided Wealth is under separate ownership from any other named entity. Glenn, thank you. Thank you for your wisdom, your story, your time today. As a fellow Coug, I love this. I love what everyone with CougsFirst is doing, and I'm just so thankful for your time. So thank you today.
Well, absolutely. And I wanted to do one more thing here to wrap things up. I think, okay, Kelsey, that you're doing a tremendous job for us. You'll be doing these podcasts. I think everybody should know that this is going to be an entire series over the course of the year that you're conducting here, which is terrific. And I really enjoyed your sessions that you did at the CougsFirst show. I thought they were extremely professional, well done. And I think everybody should know that you are a strategic coach and a WSU alum. And I would encourage people to reach out to you with questions on their business and questions on what they're thinking about doing. You're a great example of what CougsFirst is all about. You're now going to be conducting our 26 podcasts over the course of the next year. Yeah. And we connected with you through Tony and the network. And this is how these things grow. And I think it's important to cite those examples. So really excited about the work that you're doing for us.
Oh, thank you. No, I did not pay him to say that, everybody. But
no, that was all free.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And audience, please go check out the other episodes. We just wanted to lay that foundation of what this community is. And we have some really exciting guests lined up for the future. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Go Cougs.
Go Cougs. And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging out with us on the CougsFirst podcast. We hope you leave feeling inspired, entertained, and encouraged to support yet another awesome Cougar-owned business. If you like what you heard, do us a huge favor and leave a review for the CougsFirst podcast on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on the latest episodes, and please share this podcast with your fellow Cougs. And remember to thank CougsFirst for all of your products and services. But until the next episode, let's end it with a good old-fashioned Go Cougs!